Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pope Culture. Very excited to be with you today. If you're new to the channel, welcome, first of all. But if you like what you see today, be sure to head down and like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss any of the content that we're producing here at Pope Culture. My name is Neil Abbott, and my wife and I, Hannah, are the Pope Culture peeps. But we're super blessed and excited to introduce you to one of our new friends. His name is Jacob McCormick. He's an artist, sculptor, illustrator, all the above. Super talented dude. But above all of that, he's a husband and a father to a little baby girl that I'm excited for him to share with you about. And he's a man of God, and it's been a blessing to have met him, and I'm so glad that he reached out to us, and we're just excited to share his story with all of you. So, Jacob, welcome. Hi.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for having me, man. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
dude.
it.
It's funny because I feel like we've been talking for like 15 minutes before this, so
Yeah,
it's like I don't know. It's just
all part of the process. It's
it's
all part
part
of
of
the process. So.
yeah, just getting ready to go, and
We can
we're,
pretend that it never happened, but
yeah, we
it
got
did.
the
So
we're messing with new software, and this is a whole new thing.
it's
We're a
exciting, isn't it?
young YouTube channel. You're getting started with your artwork
Absolutely, yeah.
as like your full-time gig potentially, if we can get some folks to support you. I mean, it's just, I don't
Fingers
know,
crossed, man. Yeah,
crazy
hopefully.
crazy mysterious ways that the Lord is
It's
working.
one of yeah, it's one of those things that you never really think like, oh, I could do this forever, and then you're like, well, let me just, after you've been doing it for a while, like I could do this forever.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. So hey, tell everybody about you. I'll put you on the soapbox here. Introduce yourself. Let the people know.
yeah, yeah. So my name is Jacob McCormick. I live in the mountains of North Carolina, and I am an artist that primarily focuses on Catholic related art. So whether that be drawings or sculptures, things of that nature. I'm also a videographer, so I like to do a lot of religious content in terms of media and video. However, that's something I want to get more into in as much right now. But yeah, so and like Neil said in the introduction, I'm a husband and now a father as of 3 weeks ago. And I just feel incredibly blessed to be where I'm at right now. And I'm just excited to share with all of you what it is I've been doing and what it is I'm trying to achieve with Memento Christi, which is, just one of our, well, I won't say one of our, it's primarily my only form of social media right now. It's like what I'm doing. So
That's healthy,
yeah, it's
man.
all really exciting. Yeah.
That's healthy. Too much social media. Social media is a problem, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just
Isn't it? It's so funny because I find myself, really more concerned with what's going on in terms of Catholic media uh, more than social media, which is kind of odd because growing up that was not the way I was at all, and suddenly it's like totally taken over everything just because of this. It's like I got to know what other people are doing. So yeah, it's
yeah.
become my primary my primary focus.
Yeah. So hey, before we get talking about Memento Christi and all the work you
Hmm.
do and your artistic process and all of that, what's it like being a father? What's that? What is this? How is this? Because I know for me, like my whole world has changed, man. Is that how it's been for you? What has this been
Yeah.
like?
Um, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people watching this could identify with me. I don't know about yourself. I grew up in a huge family. I've got I'm one of nine kids. I'm the second oldest. My youngest brother's 8, so there's still like younger kids at home. So being around kids, changing diapers, all that stuff is something I've been doing my whole life. It's not anything really new to me. The biggest difference I've found in like raising or helping to raise my siblings versus having a child of my own is obviously just the amount of responsibility you feel um, you have, to this person or to this child. That's the biggest thing, and that's been the biggest change for me. And I was really concerned that it would. I won't say it would affect me negatively. I knew it may have a positive effect on me, but I thought that I wasn't up to the task sometimes, and that just hasn't been the case. you know, I remember thinking like ahead of time, like, man, I'm gonna hate getting up to get a bottle in the middle of the night. I'm gonna hate doing this. I'm gonna hate doing that. I'm gonna hate changing 12 diapers a day. You know, it's just one of those things. But
You hear the
you
number
know,
of diapers, and it's like,
yeah, I know.
how
I
many
was like,
times
all
am
the
I?
money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I've been pleasantly surprised at like how I really do think that when you feel obligated to someone or something or have some type of responsibility, it's amazing how that paternal instinct kind of kicks in, and you're just like way more, um, I guess, ready or adapt to that kind of lifestyle. So, but yeah, it's been good for me so far. I think the biggest thing heading into being a father was just doing all the research I could on my half on my side of things to really learn what it is that I need to be doing as a father in a spiritual way for my family. So, because
Yeah.
the father's the spiritual head of the household, so it's your
Mhm.
responsibility to really make sure that you're praying for your family and setting boundaries and stuff like that. So it's been
Absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. You mentioned the paternal instinct just kicking in,
Hmm.
and so I actually had kind of the opposite experience of you growing
Really?
up, where it's just me and my brother. So my brother's 4 years younger than me. Small family. I
Wow. Okay.
hadn't really held a baby. Some friends of ours, shout out to Danny and April if you're watching, but they had a baby a few months before we did,
Hmm.
and when we went over to see them and to meet their son, was the first time that I had held a baby since my brother, like 20 years ago.
Sure.
And so I'm like fumbling around, like, what am I doing? Uh, and then when Stanley, our son, when he was born, and the nurse, it's like she assumed I knew what was going on, but she put Stanley in my arms, and it just was like the most incredible feeling because it was like, I'm fine. Like God just gave
Yeah.
me the grace in that moment of like, you're good, Neil. You know what to do. Like,
Absolutely.
just the most confidence in the world, and like leading up to that, it was a long labor, and so there was lots of prayer, and like when they took um, my wife off into the operating room, I was praying a rosary, and I'm like, just trying to calm my own nerves, and just to be filled with that grace in that moment was so refreshing
Sure.
and
Yeah.
needed on my part anyway. Just because, yeah, I felt like, yeah, there was no way I was going to be able to handle it, but God provided in that moment, and that was
That is
something.
exactly
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That idea that God provides has had a huge impact on my life, but even more so now, um, after becoming a father and kind of getting in, especially within this year, it's just been crazy with everything that's been going on. So, yeah, God provides. That's a huge thing, and it's something I have to keep reminding my wife, and something she has to keep reminding me at times. Um, there's never a dull moment with God, and He really does. I don't think He keeps you on the edge of your seat uh, to cause anxiety or anything like that. I think He keeps you on the edge of your seat so that you can become more invested in Him and trust in Him more, which has taken a long time for me to kind of realize what was happening. I never had a hard life growing up per se. My family's not wealthy, and I mean, like I said, there's 9 kids, so there was obviously very that needed to be made.
Sorry, I
But
think I just cut you off a little bit. What was that? What
that's
did
right.
you just say?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I didn't grow up, with a ton of money or anything like that, but
Hmm.
there were some sacrifices that needed to be made and whatnot. But um, I never had a hard life, and I never had a shake in my faith, which I think, uh, a lot of people growing up, especially cradle Catholics, even if they're, really devout Catholic family that's going to mass all the time and, saying your rosaries, you're learning your prayers, you know, you do kind of get that. Oftentimes, you do have that kind of withdrawal where a lot of people will say, well, is this really what I want? They take a step back and try to maybe investigate some other areas of life. I never had that. I was always really close to the church and really close to my faith. And it's really become like just a stone for me. It's what keeps me going at all times. But um, so growing up, I never felt that I had any reason to not trust in God. However, it wasn't until I started getting into college and stuff that I started to really question whether or not I was as strong willed or had as strong a connection with God as I maybe thought I did. You know, and I think that withdrawal is really healthy. I think St. John of the Cross talks about that. He calls it, uh, was it the dark night of the senses, dark
Yeah.
night of the
Yep.
soul, things like
Dark
that.
Night of the Soul. Yep.
And so when I started to research that concept and understand that, just because you feel an absence of God in your life doesn't mean He's not there. In fact, on the contrary, He's actually showing you that He is there through that, and that's just been such a huge pillar for me. So this idea, trust in God, God's got you, God will provide, has taken a lot for me to get to that point of really kind of giving myself to Christ and saying, okay, you take it, I'll trust that you'll help us out. And that's been more evident this year than any other year in my life. So
Yeah, well, being a first time father in the midst of this pandemic. I mean, so you mentioned we can start talking maybe a little bit more about where you're at right now with starting Memento Christi. Um, what's happened as a result of this pandemic? What has kind of maybe fueled or propelled you into starting to work as an artist and pursue that a little bit more?
yeah, I think obviously the time at home has been one of the biggest contributors to that. However, uh, there's been such a lack of connection with people and with our church just because of the pandemic. I think it was for the first couple months we weren't able to go to mass. Now I feel very fortunate because I'm in an area where we are able to attend mass. We are able to have communion. I know there are some places that just aren't even there yet, which breaks my heart every time I even think about it. So I feel extraordinarily blessed to be in an area where, we might be able to actually encounter Christ through the sacraments and through mass and whatnot. But um, yeah, Memento Christi was never intended to be anything more than an outlet for me to just showcase my art. That was it. I was I originally, I mean, growing up, I was always drawing and doing stuff. Actually, when I was like 16, I made a life-size crucifix. It was crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Did
that
you
was.
are you reading my notebook? Because that was my next question. When did you get started with art?
Yeah,
What was
okay.
art
I'll
like
kind of
growing
go
up?
on that for a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
my dad was an artist. So if you actually go to the Memento Christi page, you'll see one of his paintings on the cover photo there.
Is that on the
Um,
Facebook?
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's on
Let's
the
pull her
Facebook
up
page.
here.
So all right,
Is that it there? Oh, I'm
I'm not
not.
seeing anything. So
I'm telling you guys, we are the most professionally unprofessional YouTube channel and podcast out there.
yeah.
Hey, there it
Okay,
is.
so
Is
that
that
painting you see right there, that
okay?
was a painting that I commissioned my dad to do for my wife last Christmas.
Wow.
Um, it's Madonna the Streets, which actually has an interesting story to it. A lot of people don't know that Madonna the Streets, the woman in the picture, is not the Madonna. The Madonna is not actually in the image at all. However, she is holding Christ, and there are just a couple of different stories that kind of go with it. Uh, However, I think that the most famous one is that this woman felt that she wasn't capable of taking care of her own baby, and she encountered the Madonna in the streets, and the Madonna said, "Well, you hold Jesus, and I'll hold your baby," and said, "If you can hold my son, who is the King of the universe, you can take care of your own child." That's kind of what went behind that. So that, regardless of that, that was kind of off point. I asked my dad to paint this, and he got it done like a week, and it was really awesome to kind of see him reconnect with that. Um, so he's always been involved with art, had his own studio as I was growing up, and he kind of got away from it when he got more into graphic design and started doing like car ads and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
drawing was a
little difference between car ads and painting our Blessed Mother. That's but
absolutely.
that's part of the problem, right? Because our
It
culture,
is.
in order to make the money, we've got to do the secular work, right? It's
But you don't
crazy.
have to.
But you
That's the
right,
thing. You
exactly.
don't have
Exactly.
to. It's a
Yep.
false conception, I think, that we have to uh, kind of bend to this. I'm sorry, my headphones are making all this noise.
Oh,
Um, there's this false conception that we have to kind of bend to what the media needs or what secular needs are, and that's just not true. There's plenty of room for art. In fact, I think there's more Catholic art than any other art subject in the world. There's more Catholic art, so there's definitely a divine inspiration in there, and I think that there's a way of living off of that art. However, yeah. So like I was saying, growing up, art was just a big part of our family. My mom can't draw worth a dang. She stick figures. She struggles. She struggles with stick figures. Sorry,
maybe that's why I admire your work so much. But I'm the same way. Neither of my parents are very artistic, drawing or anything like that. I don't have any of those gifts, and so like anybody who can do these amazing pieces of art, whether it's drawing or sculpting or whatever it is, I'm just like, whoa, awesome. Tell me more.
It kind of takes you back. You're kind of like, wait, how did you do that? I still have that feeling when I look at other artists. I'm like, man, Bernini. Oh my gosh, I think that's his name. If you look at his work, I mean, I'm just like blown away. So
Caravaggio, I love Caravaggio. He's one of my favorites. Yeah,
awesome. El Greco was like a huge inspiration for me growing up, and I actually got to see El Greco when I was in Cleveland. Got to see some of his pieces, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like I didn't know it was going to be at the museum. So I turned to the corner. I was like, "No way!" So, but yeah, no. So drawing and all that was really just something I grew up with. My dad was I was constantly asking him to draw stuff for me, and then I was drawing my own stuff. My sister's an artist, and then some of even my other siblings, they are very artistic, and even if it's not in drawing per se, they're artistic in other ways. So we're a very artsy kind of family. I play piano too. I don't know how to read a single note, but I can play at a college senior level. So
wow,
and that's just all by ear. So my dad plays piano and guitar. He does it all. So, but so art was definitely a huge thing for us. A lot of people have magazines on their coffee table. We had art stuff every Thursday. We were homeschooled, so every Thursday my mom had art tea time, and it was we'd get all dressed up and we'd talk about different paintings, and she would quiz us on all of them, like
canvas and chamomile or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It would have been a good name for it.
Yeah, man. Hey, I work in youth ministry, and we do canvas and grape juice. Occasionally, we've got a couple artistic kids in our youth group who will lead like drawing something, and we and then we just sip on Welch's sparkling grape juice or whatever. And
any excuse you get to drink that stuff, that is the best.
Oh, it's so good. It's so unhealthy, but it's so good.
Right. So so getting into art was just something that I've always done, and I never really thought about it seriously. Never envisioned myself being an artist. Like I still don't call myself an artist. That's just not who I am. I don't know. But these crucifixes have really reconnected me with that desire to create stuff. And I think that God kind of gives everybody an innate desire to create. We want to be like him, and he's the ultimate creator. So I think all of us strive to create in one way or another. It doesn't always have to be through drawings or sculptures or art. It could be through beautiful music or through really tasty food. There's really no limit to creation for anybody. I think everybody has the ability to create something, even if that's creating chaos. I don't know. But
or creating life too, right? I mean, parenthood.
Absolutely.
There's always creation involved in parenthood.
I'll just say a little something about that real quick. That is the greatest thing that you can create, because it is the closest you come to doing anything with Christ. Does that make sense? So God is the creator, and he extends the ability to create to us so that we can create with him. And that to me and it's only created through that perfect love and union that Christ allows us to happen. So I think that when you do it right, and there's no greater gift in the world than being able to say, I took part in the creation of life with Christ. That is mind blowing. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah,
Drop the
creation and
mic.
life. That's right. That's a big thing. Um, but yeah, back to Memento Christi. I think that, I was always sharing stuff growing up on Facebook and stuff, because you want to share with people. You're like, hey, I created this. This is cool.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
It's really exciting. It's just like anything, sharing a video. You created it. You're like,
Yeah.
check this out. It's cool, So, and I started to get so many people asking me about the crucifixes and giving me some attention about it, that I was like, this has become like my primary thing that I talk about on my Facebook page. And I didn't want that, because I don't want to bring my drama of life and my personal life and all that stuff into my arts and into Christ and all that stuff. So that's why I decided to make the separate page, Memento Christi. And Memento Christi means remember Christ. I don't remember why I made that the title. I think I looked at some other ideas, but that was kind of what stuck. And I don't really recall why it is that was the one, but it makes sense to me now.
Well, and it's fitting though, especially when we first started chatting the other day, and you were describing your process. It seems pretty clear to me that when you're creating these crucifixes and art in general, I think you're a person who's remembering Christ a lot when you're doing that. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't not, and I think that's kind of, it was definitely a foreshadowing as to what happened with Memento Christi as a whole in general. Like you said, it's all part of the process, remembering Christ. The whole purpose of that, from what I remember, my initial thought in remember Christ, Memento Christi, I of course put it in Latin because it sounds way better.
Always.
Yeah, always. The primary reason I kind of went with that was because I said, I don't want this to just be me sharing stuff. I wanted to start a group and get other Catholic artists in there saying, so whether that was film or, drawings or music or anything, or like, hey, I made this giant Christmas dinner using like this type of spread or whatever. That's all art to me,
Yeah.
So, but anything that brings us back to Christ through the arts was the whole purpose of it. And we've kind of really lost that in our church culture today. It's starting to come back a little bit, but we went through that really rough patch, like just following Vatican II. I'm not saying it's Vatican II's fault. I'm just saying following Vatican II into the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, we had stripped these churches of all of its beauty. And I don't know what the theological reason for any of that was, or what the thought process was.
Yeah, man, that's above my pay grade too.
Yeah. So, but what I did notice was there was an extreme lack of that, and I missed walking in. It was sad that the church I was going to regularly, I was not able to walk into it and be taken, just completely just
be in awe of the beauty. Yeah.
Precisely. So now when we moved to North Carolina, we're in a really awesome diocese here, and our diocese kind of went under this time where every single church, well, not every single church, but a lot of the churches, a lot of the bigger churches too, were getting funding to redo all their churches, and to bring them back to that more traditional look. And when that happened in our church, I wasn't too excited about moving. I was leaving all my friends in Florida and stuff, but coming to this church was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because it gave me such an appreciation for the arts in the church, which ultimately fueled everything that followed for me. I remember we were having mass in a Best Western for like a month or 2 or 3 months or something. And then when we came back, the church was gorgeous. We had blue ceiling with stars, and it was incredible. They just completely renovated everything to make it look like an old church. And I was like, man, it's about time. So it's nice to see that's kind of being brought back, especially in our diocese here. But yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
man.
huge inspiration for me. So I'll talk a little bit about my process if you're okay with that.
Please. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, um, as I
Yeah, I
said,
mean, talk about the process too. I mean, what goes into physically too? Talk about that too, because that's what's so interesting to me too, like the working with your hands and the molding the clay, and I know
yeah,
there's like wiring and
yeah,
just
it's
I don't know
pretty
anything about it. Tell
precise.
us, tell us.
So, um, I've been learning,
Share your wisdom.
as I'm getting into this myself. I'm still learning. Every single time I do something, I'm like, oh, the biggest learning curve for me was the anatomy of the body. That was the biggest thing. Set aside all the the functional aspects of thing, like the wire and the kind of clay you use and what temperature you bake at and all that stuff. Set aside all of that. The hardest thing is getting the uh, the anatomy right, because if you do it correctly, you'll actually begin to see that it just looks so much more natural. I told you before. Actually, I have an example here. This was the first crucifix I ever made.
Oh,
It's made out of terracotta clay, and it is not correct in any way as far as in the anatomy goes. I mean, look at his arms. They like just they don't even can't get this lined up. It
I
just
mean,
like
it looks good to
I don't
me.
know.
This is the
I don't like it. My wife gets mad at me when I say that. I don't like it. I mean, I like it because it was the very first one I did. But I mean, look at those hands. Like, what the heck?
okay. I mean,
Look at his feet. Like, what the heck? So yeah, the anatomy and learning how like the body works and everything was a huge huge part of that for me. That process and learning how to do this. So I'm still learning that. Every single time I make a crucifix, it gets a little bit better. But yeah, so I kind of start with armature wire. It's a wire that's specifically made for molding. It's really easy to bend. It's made of aluminum, I believe. So super easy to work with. I was using like steel wire before I got armature wire, because I didn't want to invest in armature wire when I could go to the hardware store and buy like a huge spool of
mm,
steel wire for close to nothing. However, steel wire is really hard to bend and really hard to mold into the shape of a person, little skeleton person. But that's kind of what I started with. Moved on to armature wire. I recently found an artist online who provides these little skeletal armatures with like a skull and glass eyes and all this stuff. And I used one for the first time, and I will never go back to doing just
okay.
armature wire. It's a $20 armature, so it's a little expensive for it, but it's a small investment for something that makes it so much better. So
Hmm.
I'll probably keep going with that from here on out. That's something that I just started doing. But yeah, so you start with the armature, and I always start with a prayer. If I'm making it for somebody specific, I try to ask that individual if they have any specific prayer intentions that they want to attribute to the making of this crucifix, kind of as like an offering, or some sort of like a sacrifice in some way. If I can sacrifice my own work and what I'm doing for the needs of another person, or their intentions uh, of their family, or whatever it is they need, I want to do that. So I always try to ask them, is there anything that you need from me in terms of like the spiritual aspect of things? What do you want me to be praying on while I'm making this? So I always start with a prayer. I say Hail Mary. Um, Before I start sculpting, anytime. It's not just before I start the sculpture itself. It's anytime I sit down to sculpt that thing, I'm always going to open with prayer, so that it's a prayerful experience.
There's the remembering Christ right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Memento Christi.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
necessary. So I get into that. And the entire time I'm there, you're constantly reflecting on the mystery of the crucifixion. And it's amazing. It's almost hard to put into words, because I always start with my hands. I always clean my hands first, because you have to have clean hands when you're working with clay. Otherwise, you
Okay.
get stuff in them and stuff. But
Okay.
um, there's something really pure about that, washing your hands before you start touching what is going to be, or molding what is going to be Christ.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
like a certain
Well,
respect
even
that comes with that.
you make me think of the priests at Mass. Lord, wash away my iniquities, cleanse me from my sins.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's
And
exactly how it is.
then the
I
consecration.
mean, in
Yeah,
reality,
beautiful.
they're obviously doing something that's far more powerful, but I'm
Right. But
mimicking that in the sense I'm trying to get all the dust and impurities off of my hands so that
yeah,
I'm not putting that into the sculpture. And that's
beautiful.
necessary. Every single person who sculpts is going to do that, but I'm trying to do it prayerfully and say, how can I connect this to Christ? How can I make this more important of a process? So I do that, and then I get started. And like I said, I always start with my hands, because you can't get in there with tools and just start slapping on a ton of clay. So I always try to put in a lot of clay, and I start to mold it. And I actually share a lot of my progression photos on Facebook. So
Yeah.
you can actually
Let
see
me pull
pictures
that
of
up
that.
here.
Yeah, so I can kind of talk about that here in a second. You can just go to photos there. So yeah, you just start kind of sculpting and reflecting on how the body is. And at first it's very technical, because you want to make sure you're getting in all of your necessary parts. So you can see there I have the armature right there. It starts with the skull, it goes into that, and yeah, so there's that's how it
Yeah, there it
starts.
is. Yeah.
Got the little glass eyes in there. I was actually copying another crucifix in Spain, so that was a request of the customer that I kind of make a replica. So you just kind of start putting it in, and yeah, so you're molding this, and you're thinking about it, and you're putting together this body, and it is a really emotional experience, because you're mimicking what I imagine are the motions that God went through when he formed Adam. And it's almost like, how can I give back to Christ what they gave to us, what God gave to us, which is just trying to give people Christ, in some way or another. So it's a very emotional, spiritual experience. And I'm not constantly thinking of this stuff. I mean, I'm human. There are times where I'm just thinking about my day or thinking about what's happening, but it's easier for me to feel connected to God when I'm doing this. My wife will be watching TV usually. I don't have a studio. I don't have like a desk. I don't have any of that. I've gotten a fold-out table that I sit in front of my couch. And
That's
what I do all
amazing,
my
though.
molding on. I've got a little crate that I work out of that have all my tools in them. So I like to kind of make a more permanent spot. But
Well, yeah, dude, I'm in our guest bedroom right now, and like, it looks nice and polished back here, but right here is the bed and piles of bags and books and gear.
That's how it is.
That's how it is. We create where we
That's how
can.
it is. Yep. Exactly. Especially at this time.
Oh, definitely.
Of life. You got to kind of work with what you're given. So, but yeah, so I don't have any sort of a studio or anything, and I do enjoy that time because I get to spend it with my wife and now with our kid. And even though I'm not there having a conversation maybe with them, or we're not watching the same thing, we're still spending time together. We call it personal together time. So it gives me the ability to do that. And, as a father, like I said, we have a certain responsibility to pray for our family, to be in some form of prayer at all times. And so I kind of have looked at this experience and say, even though I'm maybe not praying for the intentions of my family, I'm still keeping my family in prayer through doing this. So anytime I sit down to do a crucifix, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So once I get into the more technical stuff, forming eyes and fingers and, getting every little muscle to look right, and then smoothing everything out to make it look nice, that's when I start to really hone in on what his experience was, that mystery, what expression is on his face, what what is he feeling, and a lot of people look at these things and these crucifixes and kind of get their own interpretation of it, things I didn't even notice. For instance, this one here, right? This is one I just finished. So this is the one that was in all those pictures. It's just about done now. I still have to make that big shiny halo behind him and then do a cross.
Well, and look at it's just amazing though to look at the progression, right? I mean, just like you were saying. I mean, to start
absolutely.
to start here and to come to the finished product, or I mean,
Right.
you know, a piece of art. I mean, that you created. It's
Sure,
crazy. It's
absolutely.
awesome.
Well, and like, you start to look into it. So like I said, the anatomy, right? So I'm learning about, where the biceps go and the triceps and how they connect here. And then, there's always this, I guess this like winged look back here. And then you have your rib cage that pops out here, and that doesn't interfere too much with here because that's where the abdomen is. So there's so much that goes into it, and you learn all these technical things, and you're thinking about it. But my brother took one look at this and said, he looked at the legs here, and you can see there's some welts in it. Right up here, you can see there's a lot of welt.
Wow. Yeah.
He said, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Did you do that because his legs would have been contorting and balling up into tight, like balls of muscle and stuff, because that's what happens." He told me, my brother, who's 18, he was just in a pretty horrific car accident earlier this year. Broke both of his legs, and his doctor told him, he realized he had all these welts in his legs, and he didn't understand why, and in his arms and stuff all over his body he had all these welts. And he said to the doctor, like, "Why is this happening to me?" He said, "Well, when the body undergoes a certain amount of trauma, the muscles contract." So he looked at that and saw that and thought I had done it intentionally. Now, regardless of what he thinks, I just couldn't get it quite smooth. So, but to him, it meant something, and that really means a lot to me. So, but yeah, getting little details in here, and the more detail, the better. This is the first time I've ever been able to put, a tongue really in there, and
Yeah.
teeth,
Wow.
and then he's got, you can see here on his arms, he's got veins and
Oh wow. Yeah. Absolutely.
all sorts of stuff going on. So, there's just so much more detail you can do, and then learning, like I said, thinking about his experience, what was happening to him, why are things here? So when I make, a cut on his head, or when there's blood on his earlobe, I think about like that falling there. It's really kind of a weird process, but then you try to think about how gravity works, and like, yeah, it's not like the blood would just drip right off. It'd probably go down his arm some, so I draw the blood down his arm, so there's just little things like that. I recognize now this is a replica, like I said, but he's awake in this, he's alive, which means this is before that, before he was pierced on the side. So there's no piercing on the side. So you have to think about those sorts of things. Now, sometimes I do an awake version like this one, and I do put the piercing on the side because I want to capture the 5 wounds of Christ, right? So, but yeah, it is a really emotional experience and spiritual process, and this is something I kind of started earlier this year. This first one I did like 4 or 5 years ago. So this was my very first one. And then I didn't touch crucifixes at all. I thought this was like a fun project. I was done, and then I ended up was like, what can I do for a gift for my niece at her baptism? I was like, I'll make a crucifix, so that was terracotta clay. I now use what's called polymer clay. It's a plastic based clay. So when it hardens, it becomes like a hard plastic, very similar to like PVC pipe.
Okay.
But it makes it so much easier to mold because you don't have to keep it wet. You can literally set it down. I usually put it in a place that's covered so it's not getting dust on it. But other than that, I can pull it right out and just start working with it again. I don't have to, wet my hands or spray the piece to get the moisture back in there and wait for it to absorb. None of that. It's a really easy medium to work with. There is some risk in the baking process because it tends to split if you bake it at too high heat or for too long, or if there's impurities in it. But I'm starting to hone in on getting that just right to where I don't have to really be concerned with that as much. But yeah, so I kind of moved into doing Sculpey, and I'll tell you, this year where I've, like I said, I started doing crucifixes again just as a form of stress relief initially this year. That was the whole purpose behind it. I didn't want to be stressed, and coming home and working with your hands and creating something that's positive
Mm-hmm.
after a
Yeah.
long day at work, or not being able to work, or doing whatever, having a fight with somebody.
Yeah.
It's a good way to unwind. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how it started. And like I said, it kind of gained some traction on my own personal Facebook page. So I was like, let me make a separate page for this. Made
Yeah.
Memento Christi's page and started posting there. Made an Instagram account. And then I started getting people asking, like, hey, are you selling these? Like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing with all these? Now, initially, I was just gifting them to people
Yeah.
I love and people I care about, my parents, my in-laws, my
You
niece.
care about your in-laws? No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely. I love my in-laws, dude.
No, I
I
do.
am
Me
very
too. Me
fortunate.
too.
I hear all these horror stories about people who are like, I can't stand my in-laws. I'm like,
No,
I
I
don't know
know,
what you're
man.
talking about. I have the best in-laws in the world. So
Yeah, right there with you. John and
so
Linda,
yeah.
you're the best.
Nice. So so yeah, where was I? Oh yeah, so I kind of started doing it more, and people were asking, "Oh, are you selling these?" And I was like, "No, I'm not selling them because I ran my own bow making business. I keep forgetting to grab one of my bows. I've got one. I was making bows and arrows professionally for like a couple of years. Really beautiful.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Horn bows and stuff.
Gosh, you artists, you can do everything. It blows my mind. I love it.
That was just something I was obsessed with growing up. I was like obsessed with the weapon of the bow. I was like, I want to be an archer. I want to shoot bows. So
I want to be a dark elf.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like Skyrim was like my love.
Oh, me too.
Growing up, I was like, that's all I did. Yeah, I mean, there's something about like wanting something and then wanting, since you have or can obtain some type of the ability to do something, you're like, I want to do it myself. I want to make it myself. That's kind of how I was with the bows. I love archery. I love that sport. I wanted to shoot bows. But what cooler thing to do than to shoot your own bow that you made? So then you start getting into that. That's kind of how it went with crucifixes. I love the crucifix. I am addicted to the crucifix. It is the image that has captured my life. And I've been obsessed with it. When I'm in mass, even growing up as a kid, I just stare at it. I was enthralled. I don't know why. There's just something so beautiful to me about the cross.
Yeah,
and I'm obsessed. I don't know.
Well, and it's something very unique and special to, especially more, like Catholics, the Orthodox, these more ancient Christian faiths. A lot of our Protestant brothers and sisters, it's just the cross, and
Right.
and I think it's kind of the Catholic perspective. Like, I mean, they're kind of missing out on something really beautiful by not displaying Christ's corpus, even his crucified corpus, because there's so, like you say, there's so much power in that sacrifice, and being reminded of that sacrifice. Remember Christ, right? I mean,
Yes,
there is something to that, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you think about it, when we pray a rosary and we're saying the sorrowful mysteries, you can guess that that's probably my favorite set of mysteries. The word mystery, that's something, the mystery of the crucifix and the crucifixion of Christ. Even as a kid, I remember thinking to myself, how can something so scary, so hideous, in action be so beautiful? And you hear people talking about his arms spread out open wide, and that's his love. I mean, his love stretches from arm to arm on the cross, and it's open wide. And it is the ultimate love. And that's what I'm hoping to share with people, even my Protestant friends and people who maybe don't understand what the Catholic perspective is of the cross. They say, oh, you're keeping Christ on the cross. No, we're freeing him. We're showing everybody the sacrifice that he made to bring us closer to him. Because the resurrection was great, but that's not when we were saved, and that's
right.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So as a kid growing up, that looking at the crucifixion, and again seeing something that most people look at it and say it's kind of cringy or whatever, or cringy. I don't know. As a kid growing up, I was just always so encapsulated and enthralled by the image, and that obsession has just followed me. I started by collecting crucifixes. I don't know how many crucifixes I have. I have them hanging everywhere. Anytime I went into a gift shop, I was like, okay, I got to find the perfect crucifix. And I was really upset when I already had all of them, So you know, it
Well,
is
and
something,
I, I want to, the thing I want to especially emphasize with what you're creating, and not
Mhm.
only the process that you go through in terms of prayer and just that idea of creating something yourself, but what separates what you're doing from something like those gift shop crucifixes. I mean, I think that's such an important distinction for people to understand and know, because like the way that you just described, the detail that you put into each individual crucifix, like you can't get that in a store-bought crucifix, right? I mean, they're all cookie
No, yeah,
cutter. They're all cookie cutter.
absolutely.
They're not the same. I mean, and they're still beautiful, and made of different
Sure.
materials and those things. But there's something so unique about what you're doing, in that it's hand sculpted, and you can put so much more detail and attention into the little things,
Hmm.
than what something that's made out of a cookie cutter machine in China or something could do. Right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, um, you know, the whole idea, like you said, those other cookie cutter crucifixes, they're still so beautiful.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
they
Yeah,
they really capture um, what it is that we're trying to communicate to people through the crucifix. However, um, I certainly feel like what you're saying is true. There's so much more that can be put into something, especially when it's made with the intention of the individual who's going to receive it.
mm,
Now, I told you this the other day. I am looking to get into um, like 3D printing and things, some way to mass produce my own work.
right, right,
To
right.
be able to
Yep.
make a file that captures like an exact copy replica. Basically, like taking a piece of paper and putting it in your copy machine would be the same thing as taking one of my crucifixes
Right,
and
right. Yep.
copying it. The only reason I want to do that, they would still be hand painted and everything, but the only reason I want to do that is so that, because these can be expensive. I put a lot
Yep.
of time into
Yep.
these, and I have to get something for it, because like I'll talk about in a minute, it's become a primary source of income for me right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
But there are so many people who say, I would love to support you. I would love to buy a crucifix from you. I just don't have $400 to $1,000 to spend on a crucifix.
So
You
so to
know,
get Christ, in the on the crucifix into more people's hands, right?
absolutely,
And that's
and through
that's the
my own
beautiful
art and
thing,
through my
right?
own work.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So to
It's
make it more
yeah,
affordable for the people who want something like that, and then I would still absolutely make them by hand if somebody wanted to commission me for that. And once I've made it, I just make a copy of it, and I'd be able to have a website where people can select, oh, I want this one, in this paint job, whatever, and then send it to them, and not have to worry about not being able to get it to as many people as I want to, because I want to share this with everybody I can. So that's my hope, that I can do that for people. But as of right now, I'm working with what I have, and doing it by hand, and it is different. It is a different experience, and you're gonna look at that, and when you have a cookie cutter crucifix that you find in a gift shop at some church somewhere, and you see it and you say, yeah, I'll buy that, it's $50, and you spend money on it and you put it in your home. Yeah, most people are just going to hang it up,
hmm
and be there as a good reminder.
hmm
But when people take the time to find somebody and say, I would like to commission you to make a crucifix for this person or for this intention. I got somebody who wants to make one, is commissioning me to make one for their brother who's just ordained a priest.
Oh, wow,
And I
beautiful.
said, you know what? Yeah, I said, what intentions do you have for this particular process and for the crucifix itself? And she just said, I want you to make this so that my brother is reminded of his priestly duties every time he looks at it, something along those lines, and that he stays true to the priesthood. Um, and that, to me, I mean, how beautiful is that somebody's sister wants to do that for them, wants to invest in their spiritual life so much that they're willing to spend their own hard-earned cash to have something made for this individual, prayerfully made for this individual. I think that's so beautiful. So um, they make excellent gifts, and so yeah. But when you commission somebody to make something for a specific reason, for a specific person, and when it's handmade, and 50, 60, 70 hours are put into one sculpture, when you receive it, you're not going to just hang it on the wall like you would do something you find in a gift shop.
Mm-hmm.
The person who makes these and spends how many hours with them, I can't tell you how many times my wife catches me just staring at it, looking at all the detail. And I'm trying to remember when I made it or what I did or what made me think that looks good. Because I will say, and that's why I say I'm not an artist. This is not just me doing this. This is inspired by Christ. This is something that he helps me with. Every single time I sit down with my tools, I give my hands to Christ. I say, let me create in the way that you want to be portrayed. Help me to do what it is, give people what they need at this time. And he really takes control. I mean, it's kind of like a weird daze. You just kind of get into it, and then before you know it, you have a crucifix, and you're just like, I made that. So yeah. Wow. But now it's become, I hate pulling money into something that I love so much.
Yeah. But
that I want to talk about that for a second, because that's what happened with my bows.
Yep.
I did something I loved. People liked it. They asked to buy some from me. I started doing it more. And before I knew it, I was a machine who was missing out on a childhood and was making stuff that I did not want to make. Simply put it as it can be. The crucifixes, I was scared to death that is what was happening, or that's where it was going. But back to the idea that God provides, and putting your trust in God. I'll tell you, over the last few months that I've been making these and pursuing it for money and for, a career to some degree, I never did it for the money. That's the thing. Even though I'm doing it for the money, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I
it's a tricky balance, man. It's such a tricky balance. You're so right.
I'm not greedy with it. That's the thing. If I was making more than I could ever imagine with this, and I wasn't giving, and I was just keeping it all for myself, that would be problematic. But that's not the case here. I'm doing this because I need to make money for my family. I recently had a baby. And because of the nature of my own job, we'll talk about that more. Based off the nature of my own job as a filmmaker and whatnot, I don't have a steady income, and I certainly don't have any sort of paid paternity leave. My wife is in the same boat. She works, part-time, and she doesn't have any paid maternity leave. So there was definitely a lot of the stress kind of working up to her due date, thinking, how am I going to provide? And I just thought, well, I'm just not going to be able to be home. I'm going to have to leave and go to work and do things. And because of the pandemic, I can't do a lot of film stuff right now. So I've been doing a lot of like manual labor, working with other contractors in the area, spreading mulch, building stuff. It's all part-time. And, it's all good, but it takes me away. And my wife, due to the way that the pregnancy ended up going, she's pretty limited in what she can do afterward in the healing process. She needs about 6 weeks, and she can't lift more than she can't lift more than the baby's weight, which is like 5 pounds. Well, she's probably close to 6 pounds now. She's really tiny. And she can't, she can't bend over. She can't do home care. She can't do chores. The doctor's pretty much limited her to even walking around. She can't do a lot of that. So, and that's how it's supposed to be for 6 weeks until she completely heals up. And that to me was a huge stress point, because I thought, what can I do from home that's going to pull in enough money to be able to provide for my family? And I still think that every day, but I had to cling to these crucifixes and say, okay, God, let's see it. You have to provide. You have to do something about this, because I can't. My hands are tied. I'm momentarily a stay-at-home dad, and I just remember, a few months back, I had made a crucifix, and I told my wife I was supposed to be making it for my nephew who was going to be baptized. But as I was making it, I was like, I think I want to sell this one. She's like, you want to sell a crucifix? Are you sure? Like, we've talked about it, but you have your concerns about that. I was like, no, I just want to see what happens. I want to see what happens. So I made an Etsy account and I put it up there, and I put a link to my Facebook and said, hey, just to let you know, on Memento Christi, so like, just let you know, this crucifix is for sale. It's $300. First come, first serve. And
Yeah.
in 10 minutes, the thing was sold. And I was blown away. I was like, how did that happen? One of my good friends bought it. And
Wow.
I thought, well, maybe they're just trying to support me. I don't know. But then I got a flood of, yeah, exactly. Right. Take what you can from those who love you and
absolutely
and want to support you, There's no shame in that. I had countless people, well, I won't say countless, let's say 3 or 4, come to me and said, like, I didn't even get a chance. I didn't even get a chance to see it. I wanted to bid on it. They were saying they wanted to bid on it. And I was like, oh, man, like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, because I had said, like, in the past, in a couple of past posts, like, I think I might, auction one of these off and do something with the money. So I was like, well, I might make some more in the future. But for me, the biggest thing was that I didn't want them to take commissions. That's what I did with the bows, and that's where things went wrong. If I had just stuck with the bows and made the bow that I want and then put it for sale, kind of like I did with that crucifix, I think I would have been a lot happier and I could have made it last a lot longer. But, coming into this unpaid paternity leave and having to stay at home and not be out making money right now, my hands were tied, and I remember just praying. I was in the shower. I remember just praying in the shower, and I said, God, what do you want from me? What do you need me to do to provide for my family? Because I'm at a loss. My hands are tied. I don't know what to do. It was a scary moment. You don't know how to provide, and that's when I was really questioning, am I even ready to have a kid? Like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And those thoughts, they're terrible thoughts, and you hate that. So, and the words Memento Christi just came into my mind, and I thought, okay, I got to do this. So as soon as I got out of the shower, I made a post. I just put on there, hey, I was actually already working on this crucifix for a lady who ordered it. She's a disabled veteran over in Virginia somewhere. And I don't know her. She just messaged me through Memento Christi. I guess she found me. I don't have any mutual friends with her or anything, I don't think. She just found me and said, I can't find the specific crucifix. Could you make me one? So I was like, yeah, I'll do it for you. But I hadn't really ever sold them much before that, just the one other time. So I said, I'm already working on this one. I guess I'll just start taking orders. So I put it on there and I said, hey, I'm going to be, this is the situation I'm in. I try to be as very, I will share. It's kind of humiliating when you have to say, like, I can't provide for my family, but at the same time, you got to do what you got to do. That's that maternal instinct.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You'll do anything for your family. So,
but I got to tell you, man, I mean, that's what struck me so much. When we chatted the other day, I laughed a little bit with you because when you emailed me and reached out to us, I responded, I think within like 10 minutes, as soon as I read your email and I checked out your work, just your story. And maybe it's just because maybe I'm a a new dad too. And so I totally feel you there. I'm a creative, I work in parish ministry. So, I don't make $1 million.
Sure.
So I'm right there with you and trying to provide for my family too. And hearing your story though, it's so refreshing to hear vulnerability and like, it's, not to see it as humiliation, and I think that's the beautiful thing is like, it's just, it's trusting in the Lord and putting yourself out there. We have to do it when we have to do it more, especially as creative people. And so I just admired that so much about you immediately. And something tells me, dude, something tells me everybody watching and listening is gonna feel the same way because it's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot to me because that honestly was like probably the reason I didn't do it sooner was my pride. I was like, how can I say I'm not providing for my family? But you come to the crossroads where you say, is it my pride or my family? And if you pick your pride, I'm sorry, you're just not being a good person.
Yeah,
At that
yeah.
point, you're not doing the right thing, and you're not doing anything for God or for your family. So I said, it's my family. So I made the post, and within that first day, I had 4 orders,
Wow.
which paid for a month's worth of living
Mm,
for us.
mm,
Um, that blew my mind, and my wife, she's very organized. She made me a sheet and said, okay, this is who ordered this, and this is what they want, and this is the look.
mm-hmm,
And then I went and asked them what their prayer intentions were, so we wrote that down too.
mm-hmm.
And I'm just working down the list, and everybody's being so patient with me. um, as much as I'm at home, I'm also taking care of my wife and child, so it's not like I'm just sitting here making crucifixes all day. But when I do get a chance, I just try to give a couple hours each day to them so I can get them. This one I'm working on now, it's almost done. It's not completely done, but it's almost there. I've got about a month. I say about a week, maybe into it.
Okay.
So it. Yeah, I don't know how many hours. I'm probably sitting at like
You
20
lose
or 30
track.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You're not, because then I'm also by the end of it, it's gonna probably be about a 40 or 50 hour project,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. We'll see. I'm getting faster, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I the thing that threw me over the top, that really made me feel like I'm doing the right thing, was when I realized that all my life God has been providing for me in any way He can. I'll say in any way that I'm accepting it, because He'll provide for me everything if I let Him.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing for me growing up was that I was always provided the Eucharist. And this year, with how long people are having to go without receiving Christ sacramentally in the Eucharist, it breaks my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really does. And I feel so fortunate now that my church is accepting us and letting us come in and receive Him in that way. And I just remember thinking, you don't realize how great something is until it's gone. And I was starting to feel that spiritual hunger. I needed that. I need Him. He feeds me quite literally through the Eucharist. And now I realize that once again, He is feeding me through, able to make a living, through the image of Christ, and provide for my family. And that to me is like the most special thing. I'm providing for my family the way that God provided for all of us through the Eucharist. And to know that no matter what happens or what circumstance you're in, the body of Christ will always prevail and will always save you. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. And that to me was the tipping point where I said, I got to commit to this, because this could be something that goes beyond just unpaid paternity leave. This could be, for me, a way of life. Will I become a millionaire off this? No. No, I don't see that happening unless I start like Joseph statues. I can't remember. I think they're called Joseph. Unless I get that big, but I'm probably going to be dead by the time Memento Christi reaches those heights. But yeah, but there's always this, and I tell people this all the time. We tell our kids and we tell people, you can be whatever you want when you grow up. You can be whoever you want when you grow up. And that's simply not true. You cannot be or do whatever it is you want. I'm sorry. I will never be the first president of the United States. I'm okay with that. There are just certain restrictions, and giving kids that kind of idea to me can be damaging in ways. Mm-hmm. Should you support your kids if they're doing good? Absolutely. Help them. My parents are helping me with this. Mm-hmm. My dad is helping me make the cross, the wood cross, because I don't have I don't have a workshop here. I'm across the street from them. So he's got a workshop down there. He's helping me make the cross. He's helping me provide financially some of these the equipment and tools and things like that. So
well, and you said he's an artist, so I'm sure it's kind of a nice passion project for him. Yeah,
it is. And getting him involved, I've these lap joints where the cross is here, cutting that out. It's been very difficult for me. I struggle so much to get it to be really tight. And my dad does it flawlessly by hand, using hand tools. So I'm like, okay, yeah, you're good. So, so he's helping me in that way. But, I'm of a firm opinion that you may not be able to be whoever you want or do whatever it is you want to 100%. But the one thing that is absolutely true every single time, without failure, it is just an objective truth, is that you can be who God wants you to be, and you can do what God wants you to do. That is it. There's no limitation. If you pursue that prayerfully and with God by your side, you will be able to do what it is he wants you to do and be the person he wants you to be flawlessly. There's no limitation. The only limitation is yourself.
Yeah.
But there's no cap.
Yeah.
And having that now in my back pocket and knowing that it doesn't matter if I'm not going to be a millionaire. Again, I don't care about that. What matters to me is I'm providing for my family and that there's always enough. Well, there's always going to be enough, and God will always provide if you're doing it for the sake of him. And and if you're really pursuing him the way he desires you to pursue him. So you, like you said, you're in church ministry. You're not pulling in the big bucks.
Yeah.
But
no.
You know what though? You're me. I don't want to assume, but I'm going to say that God will always provide for you.
Yeah.
Because you're doing his work. And
right.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, trying to follow his will. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you conform your will to God's, we're living in a terrible time where we're told that God should conform his will to ours, and that's such a shame.
Yeah.
We really have to work the other way around. We have to be working to conform our wills to God. And the sooner we can do that, the better off we'll be. So that's what I'm trying to do here with this. If God doesn't want me to do this, then he'll give me a clear sign to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so far I've seen only provisions from it, and I've seen only support. And I love doing it. Even though there's certain specifications somebody wants, this woman wanted an exact replica of a crucifix that hangs in Spain. I started researching it. I've loved doing this crucifix. I love it. I mean, there's nothing, if somebody tells me, oh, I want this to be this color, whatever, I don't care. I'm the one making it. It's not like the bows. I was sick and tired of making the same bow over and over again. It doesn't matter how close each crucifix is, everyone's going to be different. And even though they all look so different, this one here looks really different from this one here.
Yeah. Wow.
But guess what? They're both Christ,
Yep.
And hopefully you can see that. Hopefully you can see that even though they look relatively different, they're the same. And that's that. This is my favorite crucifix of all time.
Yeah.
I still look at
it
and I'm in awe. Yeah, every single time I look at it, because like I said, that process. Oh man, making that crucifix was a very emotional experience for me, because I had to put every single stripe on his body. I had to put every single cut. And with every one of those, you're reminded of every single sin you may have committed.
Yeah.
And you're reminded of just the pain that you put him through. And it's almost hard to forgive yourself, but then you have to just cling to that mercy and know that he did that without any hesitation, and he did it with all the love in the world. And
well, and he's the man.
Yeah.
Oh, the man. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the beautiful thing too, like about being able to do different types of crucifixes. You know, like I was joking with you about how my wife saw that's the Passion crucifix, right? Is that the name of that?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah.
She saw
Yeah.
that and she was like,
yeah.
what? I don't want to look at that. Like she's not into the gory stuff,
Yeah.
right? But then
I'm sure there's
to
some
see,
people watching this video that think
yeah,
that too.
yeah. But then to see like the other kinds of crucifixes you've made too that are still like so detailed and so intricate, just in a different way, but that it's still Christ. It's still Christ represented on the
Exactly.
crucifix. Yeah, yeah.
It's a different expression.
Yeah.
And he puts that different face on every single time, just so that we can see him in the way that we need to see him in that moment. I think, for me, it is the gory stuff because it's what I need to see in order to feel that bond to him, and to understand what it really meant for him to pour out his blood for us. I mean, it's quite literal, and he does it for us every single Sunday. Through the Eucharist, he's given us his body the same way he gave us his body on the cross. So it's that same moment every single time. And I think that I can still look at all these crucifixes I make, even that first one that I'm not too fond of, and I can still find the beauty in it because there's something about each one that I love, and there's something about each one that's unique to the crucifix itself. It just goes without saying, it's a very special image. Now, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Point.
Well, so how can people support you? Where can we find you? How can they potentially look into commissioning one of these beautiful crucifixes from you?
Well, the first thing I'll say is this: I don't have a website, and I really should.
Yeah, but this is
I don't
new for
have
you.
A website. It is.
This is new for you, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to really get one set up. However, I do have a Facebook account and an Instagram account, both of which you can reach me through if you want to message me through Facebook or Instagram. I also have a Gmail account for Memento Christi, which is new as of literally 30 seconds before this film, before this video was being filmed. I was typing it up. Because I felt I needed one. So it's mementochristi@gmail.com.
Okay.
And so you can reach me through there. You can reach me through this, through Facebook or through Instagram, anything. Just contact me. I love to chat. I really do. And, I want to get to know you. I don't want to be like a faceless transaction. I want to know you. I want to know what you need in terms of prayer. Because if you're giving me, the support financially and supporting my art, I want to give you back in any way I can. Hopefully that's through a beautiful piece and through one that was made very prayerfully. And the other thing I'd like to say is this: is willing to work with you in your needs. The lady who commissioned this crucifix, she told me she can only afford something that was like $200 or $300. I told her, well, I can't do it for that cheap. I typically sell them for like, for something that's like an exact replica like this, I'd probably sell for like $700. So we met in the middle at $600. She was like, can I pay you in installments over a certain amount of time? And I was like, absolutely. So I'll work with you.
Yeah.
I'll negotiate pricing because ultimately, at the end of the day, even though I'm trying to provide for my family and everything, my biggest thing is I do want to get a crucifix into your home because it's so important to have one if you don't already. I think you should have one on every wall, personally.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just me. So I've got them all over the place. But yeah, so you can reach me through mementochristi@gmail.com.
Okay.
Or Facebook, message me there.
Instagram.
Yeah, that's it. Instagram is a great way to message me. So.
And so in the description of this video and the podcast, I'll put links to all of these places you can follow Memento Christi, you guys, as well as the email for Memento Christi, so you can get a hold of Jacob if you'd like him to to work on a piece for you and see
Yeah, absolutely.
what could happen
And
from
I will
that.
say this too. I don't have it with me here, but I'm looking to get into doing things outside of outside of crucifixes as well.
Okay.
The crucifix in my mind is always going to be my bread and butter. It's always going to be the thing I love doing most. But I do
Mm-hmm.
want to kind of get out there and do different saints. I did one of Saint Joseph, and I think I told you this the other day, Neil. That experience for me making those saints, I want to do something that's different from what everybody else is doing. Show a different moment and think about
Mm-hmm.
certain moments in that actual individual's life, because these are people who lived, who are still alive today, just in a different area, a different realm, um, who can help us. And when we try to encounter them in a way that they haven't been encountered before, maybe, or maybe not before, but maybe not as likely,
Mm-hmm.
and thought of it in a different way. And it's a very powerful experience. So I just did a St. Joseph statue. It was a trial thing, but I'm gonna hopefully remake it and do another one. Um, but like I told you the other day, Neil, it's that moment that Joseph would have picked up the Christ child off the dirty floor of his workshop when he fell asleep playing with something. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the inspiration for Saint Joseph there is my brother-in-law.
Mm.
Um, I he's not a father, doesn't have any kids, but uh, there's something about his face that when I saw a picture of him scrolling through Facebook, and I said, he'd make a good Saint Joseph. So I based it off of him.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I try to stay close to what I think they would have actually looked like. A lot of these statues you see today, they're very generic, and
Yeah.
they're not really thought of as like what would they actually be wearing,
Yeah. My
what they
wife
actually look like.
Hannah always hates it when there's when it's blonde Jesus and blue eyes and these things that like clearly like that wasn't historically what they look like. You're right.
Right. Well, I mean, this one here, it's hard to tell because he's covered in blood. But
Yep.
I will try to show you. He has a very, he's got the look
Mm-hmm.
of somebody from that region, and that to me was really important,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to bring people to and like I said, anybody, people will envision Christ how they need to, but
Yep. Yep.
um, I do want to try to bring it back to what he really experienced and what he may have really looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's the same for all these saint ones I want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're interested in getting a portrait, I'm just going to do a little plug-in for my dad here, because I really do want to
Sure.
get back
Yeah.
to painting. Support him. I mean, he is so funny because he came to me and said, "It feels weird I'm not painting anything this Christmas, Jacob." I said, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, last year you commissioned me to do that one." And he's like, "Would you?" And I say commission him. I told him I'd pay him, and he said no.
Oh
But
yeah.
I said, "Well, if you want to work on something, paint this one of um, Saint Therese of Lisieux." And he's I think he's going to do it.
Okay.
But yeah, he wants to get back into doing paintings and religious art. And so if you're interested in getting a hand painted painting for probably an affordable cost for something like that, I won't say what his price will be because that's for him to decide. Let me know. I could probably work something out with him.
Yeah. Reach out to you. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that I can grow Memento Christi to something beyond just sculptures,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to get other people involved.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
whole purpose of it. If I have another Catholic artist come to me and say, "Hey, I need to use your page to get out my work," I want
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Please do. If you're a Catholic artist who wants to show off your work, even if you don't think it's good, even if you think it's terrible, or if you've not had any compliments on it, if it's for Christ and that's why you did it, I want to showcase that, because that's beautiful to
Yeah.
some degree. And
Yeah.
so let me know. I will help you in any way
Mm-hmm.
I can. I want to build that community up, and doing these statues, saint statues, and all sorts of things is just the next step,
Yeah.
So I
Well,
want I
and
want that.
it is so much about, again, why I'm so glad you reached out to us. I mean, we have to collaborate together, especially those of us
Yes.
a little bit, maybe younger. Not that, I'm getting closer to 30, but but those of us a
Aren't we
little bit
all?
younger, yeah, we have to, and as we work to reclaim the Catholic faith for our generation, I think we have to, be willing to collaborate and work together and help
Give a
share
little. Yeah,
share the good work that we're doing, to hopefully revitalize our faith in the world today,
sure.
because we're in a tough place, and so I think the artwork and the just creative work especially
Yeah,
that we can do is super important right now.
yeah.
Super
It goes
important.
beyond importance. I mean, I think that, especially for the sake of our church, for the sake of where we are now in the church, things. I'm not going to paint a pretty picture. It's the water's not
Yeah.
great. And but what I do know is a constant is that the church is beautiful always. I mean that the church. I'm talking about the church, not just talking about specific churches or
Hmm.
institutions or anything like that.
Hmm.
Um, and in a lot of ways, she needs to be rescued again.
Hmm.
And how do we do that? Well, we do it by giving ourselves to God every day, trusting in Him, trusting that He'll provide for us, especially when we try to give everything to Him, and consecrate
Hmm.
ourselves to Him, consecrate ourselves to His Holy Mother, um, and just trust in Him. Um,
Yeah.
that's the
Beautiful.
biggest thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, hey man, I want to thank you for joining us on Pope Culture, and again for reaching out. And I encourage too, like Jacob was saying to all of you artists, if you're somebody with a story to tell, we'd love to feature you here on Pope Culture. So never hesitate to reach out. You can find all of our information on our website, thepopeculture.com. I think that's how you found us, right, Jacob?
yeah. Well, I found
Okay.
you through Facebook. I saw a
Oh
post
yeah.
that Rugged Rosary had made,
Yep. Yep.
sharing your stuff.
We're just,
So yeah,
we're so famous. We got all the connections. We're not at all, but
I was like,
um,
how have I never heard of them? You guys, it's crazy. So
it's no,
um,
it's slowly but surely. Like I said, professionally unprofessional. That's the goal here. So
it's the
um,
key.
that's the key. Yeah, but no, again, like you say, God's providing. We're making connections, meeting people, and it's a beautiful thing when we do. We place our trust in the Lord. So um,
Yeah,
yeah,
only
I
good can
just
come from it.
absolutely. And I just, again, so I'll link ways you can get in touch with Jacob, check out his artwork at the very least. But maybe if you feel called, reach out to him and see, what would it cost to commission something like this? What, I'd love for you to make something for me, for my family, for something like that. Cause, we have to support, those artists and creators in our Catholic faith right now who are investing into, the faith themselves, trying to live on it, right? I mean,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
we have to
absolutely,
do that. We have to do that.
no doubt.
So thanks again, Jacob. Stick around. I'm just gonna go back to just myself here for a second while I close out the
It's
video, but
good.
we'll chat. We'll chat after this.
Uh,
Any
I
closing
appreciate it.
messages or thoughts for anybody?
The only thing I will say is this: just take my experience as a form of testimony that no matter what you're going through, um, the turmoil that's happening in your family or in your culture, society, whatever it is, um, no matter how withdrawal you feel from Christ, He's always right there beside you. And if you really do desire Him, He's not. You don't have to go far to find Him. And just the only thing I can say other than that is like trust in Him because He will provide. And if you get anything from this entire conversation, I just want you to love God because of it. So yeah, trust in Him. That's it.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful witness. Thanks, Jacob. I'm sure people will be reaching out to you soon. And
Cool, man. I
keep
appreciate it. Thank
keep
you
up
so
the
much for
work.
having me.
Oh, it's beautiful. Well, guys, gosh, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I think Jacob and I could just talk for hours and hours about all things Catholic and faith and living as a Catholic in our culture right now. but so I really want to encourage you, check out his work, really. Look at maybe if there's a possibility of you supporting him and his family right now. But above all of that, just continue to invest in our Catholic faith. It's so huge. And so if you liked our conversation today, if you liked this video, I encourage you to check out some of the other videos we have here on Pope Culture. If you like this one in particular, subscribe, hit the subscribe button to see all of our videos we'll be uploading, the content we're creating, and hit the notification bell so you never miss anything. I just, again, so thankful to Jacob and Memento Christi for the work and for just continuing. The Lord's providing ways for us to meet amazing people, amazing Catholics living out their faith. And so leave a comment below. What did you think of Jacob's sculpting and his sculptures? And what would you like to, maybe for him to create for you? What do you create that you find to be beautiful? I think we have to start reclaiming creativity for our Catholic faith. And a beautiful witness today from Jacob, Memento Christi. Links to all of his places you can find Memento Christi, as well as how you can contact him, we'll have in the description. God bless you guys. Thanks so much for watching with us today here on Pope Culture and or listening on the Pope Culture podcast. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. God bless you guys.